Hello, guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures. And today we're doing part 196 of our Planet Zoo mod spotlights. You see, with clinching it ever closer to the big 200. Where we take a look at some of the wonderful mods people have been making and use them to talk about some of the wonderful biodiversity that we share our world with. So today we've got quite an interesting assortment. We got a few habitat animals, of course. We've also got a fish, we've got a few primates, we've got a marsupial, and we've got a really cool extinct animal I'm excited to get stuck into, something actually quite new. But yeah, we're going to be starting off with a centipede by Scott. We've got the Arizonan desert centipede, so let's have a look at these guys. See if we can find one at a nice perch for us, because they all like to be hiding at the moment. His head sticking out of the bloody... that's quite funny. There we are. Perfect. Look at this guy. Perfect example. So Scolopendra heros, or heroes, is commonly known as the Arizona desert centipede, the giant desert centipede, the giant Sonoran centipede, the Texas black-tailed centipede, or the red-headed centipede, or the giant red-headed centipede. So quite a few names for this guy. There's a species of North American centipede found in southwestern United States and northern Mexico. So around the Sonoran desert kind of area. Hence the name. And it is renowned for actually being the largest centipede in North America. It has an average length of about 6.5, 7 inches, or about 170 millimeters, or about 17 centimeters. But it can reach up to 8 inches, or 200 millimeters, or 20 centimeters in the wild, and even longer in captivity. Its trunk bears either 21 or 23 pairs of legs. It is asymptomatic coloured, to warn off potential predators, and a number of colour variants have been found of this species. The Casticeps variant is found in Arkansas, Missouri, and Texas, while other nearby areas have the giant, typical red-headed centipede, as you can see here. This species is found in northern Mexico and the southwestern United States, from New Mexico to Arizona and to west of Arkansas, Missouri, and Louisiana to the east. Although this species is commonly referred to the giant desert centipede because of its presence in the Sonoran and Chihuahuan deserts. And other arid or semi-arid areas also found in rocky woodland areas as much as Arkansas, and it remains underground on warm days, emerging in cloudy weather. So that's quite cool. In terms of its diet, they're primarily a nocturnal hunter that hunts invertebrates and small vertebrates, including rodents, reptiles, and amphibians, and are capable of actually reaching the air to grab small flying insects, and like other species of centipede, they use venom to subdue their prey. So in terms of life cycle, they hatch from eggs, and as they grow and mature, and like all other arthropods, they shed and multiply their exoskeleton. Each time they have a molt, they enter a new stage of life, and their new stage of the life cycle called an instar. And like other centipedes, the number of segments they possess remains the same throughout their life. And these guys are actually quite a slow-growing species and can live potentially over a decade. So one of the cool thing is that the venom is very similar to the venom of other Scolopendra species. So they have including components of serotonin, lipids, proteins, including cardiotoxic things and enzymes and other substances. It's known as a cytotoxin, so that kind of ruptures cells and comprising cellular membranes and kind of just blows them up. They also have contains targets targeted to its prey. One toxic numbs the nervous system of insects, rendering them unable to escape, while another actually affects the nervous system of vertebrates and small mammals that makes it easier for them to subdue and devour, which is quite cool. The exact effects of their makeup of their venom has yet to be evaluated, but part of it is difficult because it's hard to get like quite a bit of it because, they're centipedes and they don't make so much venom. Their bite is actually very painful for vertebrates. A rat bitten by a centipede shown signs of excruciating pain, followed by soreness, but returned to normal after 5 hours. For humans, it usually causes a sharp, shearing local pain and swelling, but never has any confirmed deaths. Though their bites have also been known to cause nausea, headaches, and localized skin necrosis. However, individual cases of severe symptoms include injury, including kidney failure and heart attack, came by because of their bites. But yeah, another really cool species. Do love these guys. Very, very nice. So next up, we're going to be moving on to another one. This one is done by Narwaller. Love a Narwaller mod. Oh, that's not what we wanted to do. But we got a Narwaller mod. We've got the Farragate Island beetle. So another really cool little exhibit mod there. So let's see if we can find one sitting in the light for us. And we know also, there we are, perfect. Cool little beetle. This is called Polypsis herculinus, also known as the Farragate Island giant terebinid beetle, or the Farragate beetle. These guys are a species of beetle, a flightless species of beetle in the family Terebinidae, and is endemic to the Farragate Islands in the Seychelles. So it lives in the Seychelles. It grows to about 20 to 30 millimeters long and is hard, rounded abdomen covered in tubercles. As you can see there, those are the tubercles there. It appears to have no sexual dimorphism, so males and females are pretty much exactly the same. They are largely arboreal, sheltering under the barks of trees, beneath the crooks of branches, and within bushes during the day. It's also believed to be nocturnal, descending to the forest floor at night, though never travelling far. This behaviour is believed to help avoid predators such as the right skink and the Seychelles magpie robin. And when in danger, the chemicals it will secrete from its defensive gland in the posterior of the beetle, or near its back, which has a musky smell and stains the skin purple. And in captivity, they've been noted to eat a variety of fruits, vegetables, bark, fungus, and even cat food. So that's quite fun. There are a few captive populations that have been taken for conservation reasons, with the largest being in London Zoo. And these populations are the descendants of two small populations taken from the wild several years apart. This is quite possible because they previously lived. It is quite possible that they lived in other islands within the Seychelles, and has been suggested they could be reintroduced to other islands to reduce its vulnerability. And in captivity, they've been known to live up to about 7 years. So a lot of that is because they're only found on that single island. If that one island got hit by a tsunami really bad, that could render the species extinct. So they've taken a few captive populations as kind of an assurance colony. And who knows, I would like the efforts, potentially if it did live on other islands, always want to have, don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, but we'll have a look and see what information we got. So there's a species of darkling beetle. So the ones that, make the mealworms that we like to feed to our reptiles, that's a darkling beetle. As image we found there, The pigeon lived in other islands, but disappeared due to mice and habitat loss. That makes sense. So it is considered vulnerable. There are some captive populations. So you can see that's where it lives in the Seychelles, just above Madagascar. 2 to 16. Arboreal nature, avoid predators. The greatest ever distance travelled by a single individual, 19 meters. That's quite a big distance. When threatened, they secrete symbols we may say, while the shell of this beetle is black. As with other darkling beetles, the waxy substance it secretes gives it a brownish colour. That's cool. And the Farragate Island beetle plays a key role in keeping the island's ecosystem healthy, helping to break down organic material and return nutrients to the soil. So yeah, that's another cool one there. Definitely a big fan. Really, really nice. So next up, we're going to have a look at the last one. So this was done by Noah Waller. The centipede was done by Scott. And this exhibit mod is done by great old Tosco DS, who made a fish. We've got the lump sucker, so that's another really cool one here. So look at this guy. How cool is he? Or she? We don't really know. But there's another one there. So we'll find one in the light here because we'll talk about its anatomy a bit. Yeah, perfect. So these guys do come in a variety of colours. So we're gonna have a little look through and everything, because why not? Sorry, my things. My thing kind of crept out. That's all good. Let's carry on, have a look. So this is a really cool little guy. So this is called Cyclopterus. These guys are a genus of marine ray-finned fish, and they're kind of called the lumpsuckers. And there's the only species found in this genus is lumpus, which is called the lumpsucker or the lumpfish. These guys are found in the North Atlantic and adjacent part of the Arctic Ocean, ranging as far south as Chesapeake Bay, rare south of New Jersey, on the North American coast, and Spain, rare south of the English Channel, on the European coast. But they have been reported twice in the Mediterranean Sea, off Croatia in 2004 and Cyprus in 2017. So these guys were first formally described in 1758 by Carl Linnaeus, and lumpus was the only species described as the type 1, so it's the only one known of its group and family, so its taxonomy has probably been one of the most simplest ones of all, which is quite funny. This guy is, the etymology is cyclos, which means ring, and pteros means fin, so it's basically the wing fin. This is a reference to its pelvic fin that you can see has been modified into a suction disc, as you can see here. The specific name lumpus refers to that, lumpy appearance, and it's got thick tubular skins, makes it look like it's covered in lumps. Because it is covered in lumps, technically. But yeah. So these guys are a sexually dimorphic species, with females reaching larger sizes than the males. Males typically reach about 30 to 40 centimeters, or about 12 to 16 inches in length, while females can grow up to about 50 centimeters, or 20 inches in length, and about 5 kilograms, or 11 pounds. The largest recorded specimen, though, was about 6.1 kilograms. 61 centimeters long, or about 24 inches in length, and about 9.6 kilograms, or 21 pounds, 3 ounces in weight. Though in the brackish water of the Baltic Sea, they usually do not surpass 20 centimeters. So you can see they've got quite a round ball-like body. They almost look like a tennis ball. They have knobbly ridged backs and 3 lonely bony tubercles on each flank. So you can see they kind of go down 1, 2, 3, which is quite cool. Its pelvic fins, you can see, form a suction disc, as you can see there, that uses to attach itself to rocks and other surfaces. And the head and pectoral fins of males are larger than females, and they have a jelly-like layer of fat under their skin, kind of makes them look really chunky. But that's quite funny. And they come in quite a few colors, as you can see here. You can see we've got some blue ones, we've got some yellow ones, we've got some, there's another blue one. So we've got quite a few different colors, as you can see here. They typically can be bluish, greyish, olivish, yellowish, and brownish, with males turning orange-reddish during the breeding season. So in terms of biology, they inhabit water temperatures between 1 to 15 degrees, minus 1 to 15 degrees. Juveniles being most common in temperatures between 6 and 9 degrees, while adults are more common at 4 to 8. They also become much less common in temperatures greater than 12 degrees. It's just what they, tolerate, but they don't like it that warm. These guys tend to spend their first few months following hatching in tidal pools or an association of floating seaweed clumps. They grow then migrate out to the open water far from land, where they live in the pelagic zone, feeding on zooplankton, fish, eggs, and small crustaceans, in which when they reach maturity, they will migrate to coastal areas in spring to breed. During this breed, the males, as mentioned, change colour, become reddish-orange in colour. The population spawns over many months, with spawning fish being caught in Iceland from March until August. Females which have spawned during the previous year tend to return to the same area when spawning again, and they return at a similar time of year, i.e. individuals which spawned earlier late in the season will return to spawn early late to the season the following year. A single female could lay between 50,000 to 220,000 eggs, which are laid in 2 batches of roughly equal size, about 1 to 2 weeks apart. The eggs themselves are about 2.2 to 2.5 millimeters in diameter, and the ovary can account for up to 1/3 of its weight when the female begins spawning. The females will lay the eggs in a nest area pre-selected by the male, which usually is a rocky outcrop or a seabed, and this nest is in relatively shallow water, less than 10 meters, and may even be in the intertidal zone. The male will also guard and care for the eggs by fanning them with his fins during the month-long incubation period. One of the really interesting things about them as well is they lack a swim bladder, and they have, as mentioned, these suction discs. Led some to believe that this was actually a bottom-dwelling species, as they are actually frequently caught in pelagic fishing nets. However, capture and bottom trawling is also common. An investigation using electronic data storage tags confirmed that the fish, that at least during its breeding migration, will spend time associated with the seabed, but also some time in pelagic zones. When the fish came close to breeding, they began to spend a greater amount of time in the pelagic zone. And with the lack of a swim bladder, the fish are able to make rapid movements through the water column, moving between surface waters and depths of over 300 meters within 1 day. And data and research suggests that adult lumpfish actually alter their behavior during night and day, with the fish spending more time in pelagic zones at night and found associated with seabeds during the day. Though the reasons for this is actually not too clear. The current understanding is that after juveniles leave coastal areas, they adopt a pelagic life, inhabiting the upper 50 to 60 meters of the water column, and it's only when they return and migrate to coastal areas of spawning that they spend more time on the seafloor. And one cool thing as well, they do exhibit biofluorescence. So that is when they are illuminated, light absorbed by the organism is re-emitted in lower energy wavelengths. So the light of a lumpfish that's been emitted to the human observer, it appears green and peaks at about 545 and 613 nanometers, which is interesting. The greatest intensity is along the tubercles and the high crest and the 3 ridges as well. The purpose of this biofluorescence remains unclear, and it's actually not known if it's exhibited in adult lungfish, which is interesting as well. In terms of fishery, they are fished for their roe, and landings of lumpfish roe vary between 2,000 to 8,000 metric tons a year between 1977 and 2018, though in recent years Iceland and Greenland have become the largest fishing nations regarding lumpfish. Historically, though, Norway and Canada had quite a bit as well. So they are a female fish or a main target for this fishery because females have roe, males don't. And they were definitely targeted close to shore, usually with small fishing boats and large mesh gill nets, which is a very bad thing. But yeah, they are caught, but in their population status, they are considered healthy. They're considered near threatened because of a lot of that fishing, but they are doing okay-ish. So populations with Iceland and Norway have been monitored using data and is considered above the long-term average and is considered to be healthy. Though in Greenland, no surveys have really been known, and data on fishing efforts on land has been monitored. However, this does appear to be stable. The population in Canada, though, appears to be depleted and is classed as threatened. So in some areas they're doing better, some areas they're not doing too well. In some areas they get caught as bycatch as well, and that kind of sucks. And in terms of usage, their roe is a good source of omega-3 and is used to produce relatively inexpensive caviar substitutes. And this roe is removed from the fish and proceeded to remove connective tissues, and they're stored in large barrels where they're salted, and then the roe is dyed either red or black or packed with a mold inhibitor such as sodium benzoate, and which is interesting as well. And in Scandinavia, the fish are eaten, and Iceland, they're often smoked or salted or simply boiled, and the female lumpfish is really eaten, but when it's caught during the spawning season, they will kind of eat it that way and as well, and they have special Icelandic dishes to eat it. And it's also very interesting, this guy is actually used a lot in aquaculture, so they are used as cleaner fish in salmon farms in Scotland, Iceland and Norway to help reduce that parasite burden, since these guys will eat them. So it's a cool little fish that kind of helps out, with farming, so I think it's quite a cool little thing that they do. Another really, really awesome little mod, Love a Lumpsucker. So this was done by Tosco DS, Another winner chicken dinner. So next up, we've got one by Lorby. How can you not love Lorby? We've got another species of marsupial. We have got here they're having a fight, I think. We'll put this one away so they don't carry on fighting. Here we've got the bridled nail-tail wallaby. So let's have a look at you. A wallaby! Alright. So this is, let's have a look at this guy. So these guys, also known as the bridled wobbly or the flashjack, which is a funny name. These guys are a vulnerable species of macropod, and they're a small wallaby found in 3 isolated areas in Queensland, Australia, and sadly their populations are declining. They are considered vulnerable. In early 2019, the total population was estimated to be about less than 500 in the wild, but over 2,285 in captivity, as we'll get into. So a specimen was presented to the Linnaean Society of London by John Gould in 1840, and was published in the latest, the following year, and was kind of called Ochnoglara finita, or so you say that. And in terms of the description, they are a small wallaby. They're named from 2 distinct kind of characteristics they have. They have a white bridle line, as you can kind of see, that runs down the back of their neck and the shoulders. And they also have a horny spur at the end of their tail. Other key features include a black stripe running down the dorsum and the neck between the scapula, large eyes and white cheeks, as you can kind of see there, which is often seen in other wallaby species. The bridled nail-tail wallaby can grow to about 1 metre in length, half of which is tail, and weighs between 4 to 8 kilograms, with females being somewhat smaller than males, with the tail spur being up to 3 to 6 millimeters and partially covered in hairs, so you probably really notice it on this guy. But the nail-tail has features in common with the 2 other species of wallaby, the northern nail-tail and the crescent nail-tail, which was declared extinct in 1956, And apparently Gould ate this one and described its meat as excellent. So that's probably not a good thing for them, especially since they're endangered at the moment. So in terms of their ecology and behavior, the species is most active during nighttime and dusk periods. Days is usually used for sleeping in hollows near bushes or trees, and in modern habitats they keep close to the edge of pasture grasslands. And these wallabies have a reputation of being shy and solitary animals, which may occasionally form small groups up to about four and feed together when grazing is in short supply. Gold will also view the animals in natural habitat, preserved recorded observations of behaviour in the area around Benzai that have observed the indigenous people around there as well. He noted the rapid movement of a live animal when pursued, outpacing dogs as well, and then sent into a hollow tree and linked into a hollow log. So that's quite a cool little observation there. They also have a polygamous mating system. And like other kangaroos and wallabies, they are marsupials, so they don't gestate for very long. They gestate for about 23 days. And then the baby, a single joey like this little guy, is born and climbs into the pouch and develops for another 4 months. And one of their interesting behaviors is defense behaviors when threatened by predators. Native predators usually lie flat on the ground and find some cover. However, in 2021, it observed that in response to introduced species like feral cats and foxes, they have altered their behavior to learn to hide in response to smelling predators rather than just flying down like that. And what's cool as well is these guys are actually quite a bit of interest in marsupial researchers because they appear to have a more vigorous immune system compared to other species of macropods, and they are able to survive parasitic infections, viruses, and various diseases more readily than other marsupial species. So they are quite hardy in terms of dealing with illness, which is quite interesting as well. So let's have a look at you, Miss. Let's see, he's probably going to climb in the pouch. That'd be quite cute. Baby. Anyway, so at the time of European settlement of Australia, these guys were quite common along the east coast of Australia as rest of the Great Dividing Range. They could be found as far south as Victoria and the Murray River, through central New South Wales and Charlestown and Queensland. But they declined quite a bit during the late 19th and early 20th century, with no confirmed sightings between 1937 and 1973, where they were actually believed to be extinct, like their relative, the chestnut nail-tail wallaby. And after reading an article, magazine about Australia's extinct species, a fencing contractor reported there was an extinct population on a property near Dingo, Australia, and that was confirmed. And the property became Tanton National Park when it was confirmed, and the property became that, and it was a scientific nature reserve to help the species. And as of 2001, they are estimated to live in less than 5% of the original range, and their extant population was estimated to be about less than 500 in the wild in 2019. But there is luckily quite a good amount of conservation work going into these guys. But in the early 1900s, they suffered dramatically from shooting for its fur, and they're also considered pests. But current threats include predation, introduced species like rats, feral cats, red foxes, and dingoes. The other things is wildfires, prolonged droughts, habitat destruction by the pastoral industry, and competition for grasses with things like rabbits and goats and sheep. Since its rediscovery, though, they have been a target of private conservation efforts to re-establish viable populations. Captive breeding has established 3 populations in Queensland and a few national parks, including Teleton and Idyllwild National Parks, and on another private reserve, Project Carly near Marlborough in central Queensland. After the last captive breeding facility in Queensland failed, the remaining animals were transferred to Idyllwild Nature Reserve, with a total population there estimated to be about 600. As of 2019, they are confined to 3 populations: Tanton, Avocet in Queensland, and the Australian Wildlife Conservancy Scotia Sanctuary in New South Wales, where there's more of 1,000 of these wallabies. And then they were scouted from Tanton to Scotia and for reintroduction into a predator-free breeding area within the Pilliga State Conservation Area, and this was conducted and actually seemed to be working quite well. And a new strategy known as head starting has been trialled at Avocet, where their population seemed to work quite well. The population has grown more than 100% over the 3 years. So they had about 10 hectares that had been fenced off 3 years earlier, and the youngest wallabies were able to go in there and be raised safe from feral cats. And after students showed that overwhelmingly this group was more vulnerable to predation, And after this method had been tested on reptiles and birds, this was the first trial on land-based mammals. So basically, it just gives them... we actually do this with kiwi as well in New Zealand. So basically, the first 6 months or so of their life, that's when they're most vulnerable to getting eaten by introduced predators. Once they're big enough, they kind of are able to defend themselves. And that's what they did here. They basically just take care of them until they get big enough to be able to defend themselves and learn how to defend themselves from introduced predators. And then they get released into the wild. And that does actually help them quite a bit in a lot of few species, which is quite cool. And cool, in the Tenton Conservation Park, there was a total of 65 wallabies recorded in 2008, but in early 2021, the population had risen to 1,300. So that's a great example of great conservation work done by, cool people, especially the Australian Wildlife Conservancy. They've done a really great job. I like watching their videos, hearing about other conservation work they do. But yeah, it's brilliant. Nice to see these guys getting a little bit of a comeback, Don't call it a comeback, because it has been here for years. I had to make that joke, but still really, really cool. This one's done by Lorby. I feel like every mod we've done today is actually done by someone new, which is really cool. Not just like the last one, yesterday's one, which was like just Great Kate's mods and Scott. This has gotten a lot of other modders involved in it. So next up, we've got here by Monsoon, we have got the Milne-Edwards Sifaka. So let's have a look at these guys. So another cool one here, Lava Sifaka. So these guys are called the Milne-Edwards Sifaka, or Prothopithecus edwardsi. These guys are a large arboreal diurnal lemur, only found in Madagascar, to the eastern coastal rainforests of Madagascar. And they are characterized by a black body with a light-colored saddle. You can see on their kind of sides and the lower parts of the back. And they're closely related to the diamanted Sifaka, and actually was until recently considered a subspecies, but now they're considered their own thing. So these guys are considered endangered by the IUCN, and their population estimated to be about 28,600, but only about 3,000 of them live in protected areas, with their main threat to their habitat is habitat loss, so, people chopping them down. Madagascar is really, really bad in terms of deforestation at the moment, which is a little bit sad, but they could also be sensitive to climate change. So these guys are actually considered the second largest species of the Prothopithecus, so it's the second largest species of lemur or Sifaka. Second, I believe, only to, I think, the diamanted one, and then you obviously got the injury as well. The average weight of a male Milne-Edwards Sifaka is about 5.9 kilograms, about 13 pounds, and females it's about 6.3 kilograms, or about 13.9 pounds. So the female's a little bit bigger. The body length, excluding the tail, is about 47.6 centimeters, or 18 inches for males, and females measure 47.7 or 18.8 inches in terms of body length, with their tail being slightly shorter than their body, average about 455 or 17.9 inches in length, which is about 94% of their total head to body length. They have a pretty typical body plan for a Sifaka, nothing too different. They have a body shape with orange-red eyes and a short black bare face, ringed with puffy spark or dark brown fur. The majority of the coat is dark brown or black long silky fur, but on the center of the Sifaka's back and flanks is a brown cream colored saddle, where it kind of gets its name as well. And they don't exhibit any differences in color or size much between different individuals, other than females are slightly bigger. They don't have any different colors or different features between the males and the females, other than the typical ones. Whereas with all lemurs, they have special adaptations for grooming, including a toilet claw on its second toe and a tooth comb, which is quite interesting. Its hands and feet also have prehensile thumbs and big toes, which allows it to retain superb grip on trees and trunks and branches. The pads on its finger and toes are rough and have large contact areas, with the nails also being sharp and pointed, which allows them to dig in if it slips. The big toe of the Milne-Edwards Sifaka and Indrids in general are longer and have a deeper cleft compared to that of lemurids, and this shows they have a much better climbing ability. And much similar to other species of Sifaka and Indrids and these kind of guys, or Indrids as we like to say, these guys' arboreal lifestyle demands high coordination, a well-developed grip, and considerable acrobatics. And these guys move typically by vertical climbing or clinging or leaping, meaning that maintains an upright position from tree to tree. And that's why you kind of see them hopping around like that. That's their natural posture. They're always kind of standing up, almost like a people's. In leaping between trees, they can perform a 180-degree twist in midair that comes in landing on a target, and primary movements of its arms and those legs used to adjust the body's rotation and stability when on the fly. And while landing, they'll actually swing their tail and outstretch forearms downwards to help keep the body forward, much like a long jumper. All good. So Milne-Edwards as well can probably leap between 8 to 10 meters, or about 26 to 33 feet, with the lemur really descending from the relative safety of the canopy, which is interesting as well. They spend little time on the ground, and the species as well solely uses trees to disperse to its habitat. Hopefully, if forced to, it will cross roads and mention hop, as you can kind of see as they do, on the ground there, like that one there. See that one's hopping? So that's kind of how they move when they're on the ground. They also can hang upside down from their trees as well on their hindlimbs, which is interesting. And they practice climbing and leaping pretty much from their infancy when they venture off their mother's back. It's not uncommon for these lemurs to fall, whereabouts the mother quickly comes to the infant's assistance. And adult lemurs typically do not fall, but they may occasionally lose their grip if the bark or tree shears off between its fingers. And they actually carry food while traveling in their hands, though they prefer to place things in their mouth. So that's another cool thing they do. In terms of geographic range, they're endemic to the island of Madagascar, and they're primarily found in primary and secondary forests in the southern part of the island, at elevations between 600 and 1600 meters above sea level. And they have the southernmost range of the Diamantid Safacas, and the Marigot and Olive River is kind of where they're found from. And they do share their habitats with quite a few different lemur species, like the ai and the golden bamboo lemur, the great dwarf lemur as well. In terms of their social organizations, they're actually pretty well studied. These guys are arboreal, diurnal, terrestrial, and group forming. So basically, they like to come out during the day. They like to hang out in trees. They have a territory, and they like to live in groups. So in terms of their diet, they eat mostly mature and immature leaves and seeds, but they also regularly consume flowers and fruits. And they also supplement their diet with soil and subterranean fungus. In the process of foraging, they actually range up to about 670 meters a day, so that's quite interesting. In terms of their social organizations, they form multi-male, multi-female societies with multi-age groups between 3 to 9 individuals and have a mean size of about 4.8. Depending on the number of gender of individuals, this group can be monogamous, polygamous, polyandrous, or polygynous, which is quite interesting. Shifts in these numbers and ratios will affect the social structure, and the group provides protection from predators while the size is limited by intergroup competition by seasonal food resources. Group dynamics are also primarily dictated by balancing the benefits and costs of predator protection, intergroup competition for resources, and mating opportunities. About half of Milne-Edwards Safacas are the individuals of both sexes born in a particular group will emerge. Females leave as juveniles, or males can leave both as juveniles and adults. So in terms of reproduction, well, look at the cute little baby. Where's the cute little baby? Look at this little guy. Look at this cute little guy. Hopping around. So Milne-Edwards Safacas become sexually mature at about 2 to 3 years of age. And they have one mating season annually during the austral summer, between December and January. And females give birth in the austral winter between May and July, after about 179 days of gestating. And they're actually looking a lot into research of these guys. There have lots of researchers conducted on these guys where they've been collared, and the lead female carries a tracking device. But currently there is none of the species in captivity. So, you can have in captivity in your zoos, have a species that's not really kept in captivity. But yeah, really, really cool. Really love this one. Monsoon always coming up with some really awesome mods. But yeah, let's carry on. We're going to carry on with a few new species now. This next one is done by Mega Kebab. He does a lot of primates and everything like that. But we've got here a gibbon. So this is the silvery gibbon, or the Javan gibbon. So I'm quite excited to get stuck into this one. Well, actually, I will put these taller, because they seem to keep getting into their boxes, and I don't want to deal with that. Let's see if we can put it higher. They like that. Let's see, they're taller. Yep, that's all good. Yeah, they keep getting banned. So we'll have a look at these guys. Really, really fun. So the silvery gibbon, or Halibates monarch, also known as the Javan gibbon. These guys are a primate in the gibbon family, and they are endemic to Indonesia, which means they're only found there. They're found in the island of Java, so that's the only place where you can find them. So if they go extinct there's nowhere else you can find them in the wild. And they live in undisturbed rainforests up to an altitude of about 2,400 meters, or about 8,000 feet. They've been listed as endangered since 2008, and there is believed to be less than 2,500 mature individuals in the wild. So I want to have a look at this one climbing. Let's have a look at you climbing. I like it when they do that. So its coat, you can see, is like a bluish grey with a dark grey and black cap. And like all gibbons, they lack an external tail, have dorsally placed scapula, and reduced flexibility in its lumbar regions. They have long curved fingers, and you can see quite long forelimbs that allow them to brachiate. On an average, they reach about 8 kilograms in weight. It is diurnal and arboreal, so they come out during the day and live in trees. They climb trees skillfully and brachiate through the forest, so use their arms to climb. You know, that's the thing that we just saw them do as well. So like that, you know, that's brachiation. Brachiation is possible because of its mobile wrist joints, full rotation of the upper arm, and the ability to lock elbows in suspension. And in terms of their diet, they feed mainly on fruits, leaves, and flowers. So every 3 years on average, a female will give birth to a single young after a gestation of about 7 months. The offspring is then nursed for 18 months. You can see the cute little guy here, nursed for 18 months, and lives in a family group until it's fully mature at about 8 to 10 years of age. So this guy is actually ranks among the most threatened primates in the world. It was listed endangered in 2009 in the IUCN, with the population appearing to be more stable than a 2004 assessment of being critically endangered, which suggests there'd been a 50% chance of them becoming extinct within the next decade. Habitat destruction on the very densely populated island of Java continues to reduce the native range of the species. Also, many gibbons were lost by the illegal pet trade, where adults are hunted and the young can be sold as markets as pets. There's believed to be less than 2,000 silvery gibbons in the wild on 8 sites that are considered to be genetically viable for the continuation of the species. There's a dozen small non-viable populations as well. And Mount Halum Salak National Park supports the largest population of about 1,000 gibbons. And other large populations of several hundred can be found in the Gunung Cemara National Park and the Garangade Parango National Park. And there's also a Javan Gibbon Centre that rehabilitates ex-captive gibbons, so that's another cool one as well. And several zoos do actually breed this species, which is another cool, thing they do. And look at you there, where are you? Alpha female, there we are. Looks a really nice one. He looks like an old man rather than a female, which is quite funny, but still cool anyway. Several gibbons are bred as part of several brood programs, and despite those efforts, they don't know what the survival of the species in the wild is going to be, sadly, just because of, climate and habitat destruction, especially with Java's population growing so much. Like all gibbon species, they tend to live in pairs and stake out territories that a pair will strongly defend. They have relatively small territories, though, that are typically about 42 acres. Females sing to declare their territory several times a day, and if strangers are spotted, the male will scream at them and attempt to scare them. The majority of solo song bouts or scream bouts are actually produced by females, and the female vocal bouts occur after 5 o'clock in the morning, and the vocal bouts will, with activity peak at about 6 o'clock in the morning. In contrast, the male will typically occurs before 5 o'clock, for the style of chorus, and there's a minimum of 3 participants. There's a chorus around every 8.5 days, and it takes place sooner and lasts longer than the female solos. The majority of male songs begin in the dark between 0300 hours and 4 hours. So basically 3 to 4 in the morning, which is, the worst time to call, but that's anyway. The males are usually actually quite aggressive towards each other as well. And in terms of their taxonomy, there are 2 subspecies. I don't know if they actually followed that much, but there's the western gibbon and the eastern gibbon. There's a couple different subspecies, but I'm not sure how much followed they are these days. Particularly how endangered they are, they might not be too worried. But yeah, another really cool species that we get to look at. Another cool gibbon, another one by Mega Kebab, a really winner chicken dinner. But yes, we're going to have a look at our last species for today. We have got the Rubiceros gigantans, so another really cool species here. So you can see this wonderful male with his big antlers. So this one actually doesn't have a Wikipedia yet, so I grabbed the actual paper describing it, so we'll talk a little bit about it. So this was described in 2018, and this is in the genus Riviceros, River Service, which includes the modern-day Barashinga, and also extinct species like Simplodens and Cobalti, and also the Scomboxed gear, which I covered a few episodes back. This is a relative of this guy that went extinct in the 1930s, 1940s. And this one, the new described species is Riviceros gigans, which comes from the Pliocene or Holocene of southern Eurasia, and this one comes from, and gigans means giant from Olympians, and it gets its name because it's quite large. It's actually very large and similar in size to the giant deer Megaloceros, and they have quite interesting, they're significantly larger than other species. So Simplodens and Cobalti lived more in Himalayas and the Silawak fauna. So these guys, they are distinguished from those kind of species by being much larger and having different antlers. And they are found in the same fauna as Paramegaloceros as well, which is quite interesting as well. They're just quite large. It's the biggest thing really about them. The size of them is extremely large, and as I mentioned, rivals that of Megaloceros, which is the one that we typically think of the big one, which is quite interesting as well. And we'll have a look at the Zoopedia, because we've probably got a little bit more to talk about that. So if we have a here, so the early Pleistocene, the late early Pleistocene of Greece, has yielded the remains of giant species, gigans, that rivals the Megaloceros, Irish elk. The species is distinguished from usually large animal long limbs. Apparently it's closely related to Silphodens and Cobalti of the Shavaks, which is in the Himalayas. The southwest European endemic mid-early late Pleistocene genus also thought to be closely aligned. So the spotted species of Riviceros in Europe was inclined to the genus Rhinoceros at the time, and then genus Inclades. Today there is considered a subgenus of Riviceros. European fossils are distinguished from the South Asian species being more compact in the crown and development of other little things as well. And these guys, large forms are mostly from the Himalayas. This is the larger one, and probably the largest one in Greece. So they're from Greece. So that's quite cool. So you can see that's where it's been found. There's actually this is all from the Sika deer, so it's not right information. But we'll have another look. So you can see the female here. I do like the reconstruction of this, like the spots on it, and very interesting. And we do have quite good remains. We know kind of what the antlers look like, and this is pretty spot on. It's actually mentioned in the paper that I've got here. They have caught some of the antlers, so they do kind of know generally what they look like and things like that. They're quite cool. So yeah, gigans would have been living. Well, let me see if I can find the information. So there is some similar. Yes, it's in southeastern Europe, as I mentioned, in Greece is where it's kind of typically found, which is quite interesting. So yeah, another really cool species and another great one by Great Cakes Mod. We'll have a look at the cute little babies, and then I think we're done. So yeah, here's another cute little baby. But yeah, I think this is a great place to end the video. So if you guys want a giant extinct deer that's not Megaloceros, you got one right there. So yeah, I'm going to thank everyone. Thank you Scott, thank you Nawala, thank you Tosco DS, thank you Lorby, thank you Monsoon, thank you Mega Kebab, and thank you Great Cakes Mods. You've all done really, really great jobs with these mods, and really, really awesome to see. So yeah, really, really, really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to hit the bell icon to get notified about anything. See if you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.